Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it's time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Alana.
Oh no, I'm tall enough, thank you. Hi everybody, Alana, alcoholic. Unless, all right, maybe I'll. Is that better? Okay, first off, it's like, does this color go well? Like, right? It's so purple. It's like Gone with the Wind, you know? Anyway, yeah. My name's Alana, and I am an alcoholic. And I feel very tall right now. It's very cool. I used to come to this meeting when it was, okay, here's a little thing. I haven't been to a Rodeo meeting since it was at Rodeo. That's a long ass time. And that's because I have a life. I'm just kidding. Kind of true. Laura, thank you so much for asking me to come share with you guys tonight. I'm very humbled, and I always feel very honored when I get to, somebody asks me to actually show up and tell a very vulnerable part of me to you. And it's a really difficult thing to do, to stand up here, and because what happens for me is I really tell the truth. And Alcoholics Anonymous has chipped away everything that isn't me to get to who I really am. And Adam wanted me to say that he forgot to thank me. So Adam thanks me for giving him a cake. He told me to say that. I love you. And I have to give a shout out to Charles and Rustum. And it's so funny. Rodeo has a very special place in my heart. And a couple of things are that really have happened at Rodeo when it was on Rodeo Drive that I really want to share with you. One is at the very end when they say, principles before personalities. I never say that. I think it's gay. And one of the main reasons is because the reason why people started to do that was because there was a guy named Billy Sunshine that used to run around here, and he was a homeless guy. Principles before personalities, Billy Sunshine cared. And he'd walk up and down the aisle, and he'd just be crazy, you know? And that's why we started chanting afterwards from a drunk homeless person, you know, principles before personalities. And we're like, keep coming back. No, anyway. And I really miss Billy. Billy was a very big staple in Alcoholics Anonymous at Rodeo Drive, and he used to say that he played, you know, with the Beatles, and you know what? He might have. Seriously. I mean, who knows, man? That guy was crazy. And but he was like always at Rodeo, every meeting, and he used to go to the old Central, which is now the Viper Room, at noon. We used to go to the Central meeting, and one day Billy was passed out on the sidewalk, and I was trying to get him to come to, and he was completely gone. And the ambulance came, and he popped up, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, and these ambulance people want to get him on the gurney, and he's like, no, no. And I go, Billy, do you want to come to the meeting? He goes, I'm going with her. She's beautiful. F you. And I was like, wow. And these guys are, these paramedics are like, are you okay, ma'am? I'm like, yeah, he's my friend. And and he was. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, you know, in the face of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, when the hand of AA reaches out, that's when I'm responsible. And it's not that, you know, like, ooh, Billy smells like alcohol and grossness and pee. That's me. Are you kidding me? Because God forbid if somebody didn't get me when I was passed on the ground, God forbid if I got loaded after 20 years of sobriety, And Rustum didn't walk up and slap me in the face and say, wake up, and, you know, like, I wouldn't be standing here, you know? And then, which I'll get into later, but this moment at Rodeo, you know, Rodeo is very, you know, flashy and people, and, you know, it's a Friday night, man. It's like, yeah, let's go to the Rodeo. It's like a club, you know? And I was 8.5 months pregnant, and I couldn't find a seat, and there was like these like places on the side, and I had to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, and I went into the bathroom, and I came back, and I leaned against the wall, and I kept hearing whoosh, whoosh, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, and the bathroom toilet seat was like this, and I had walked the entire way down the aisle with the bathroom toilet seat, right? Fucking, who's a rock star? Are you kidding me? 9 months pregnant, waddling. And my friend Reed was there, and Reed's this biker, big tattooed guy, and he's like, well, at least you use it. I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? And like, you know, you really try to be cool here and hip slick, and you know, you're in Rodeo, and like, forget it. It just, every time I try, it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? And like, God has a serious sense of humor in my life, always. And then there's this last experience at Rodeo, which is probably the most heaviest experience at Rodeo. And there was a guy named Pedro who I worked with in sobriety. And he had the sunlight of the Spirit in his eyes, you know, and he was a liar and he'd cheat and a thief, just like me. You know, he's sober. And God bless him, he couldn't stay sober. And he told a really, 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 really heavy lie, which I'll just keep that shelved, but it was a gnarly lie. Like, wow, how creative we can be in sobriety, or using. And we found out it was a lie, and I said, meet me at Rodeo. And there was these steps, and he sat on the steps, and I saw him, and I walked up, and I sat next to him. I'm like, hey, Pedro, are you okay? And he's like, no, and he's crying. And he's looking at me, and he's looking at his arm, and he's looking at me, he's looking at his arm, and I was trying to really look at him, because that's what I was taught in Alcoholics Anonymous, is to look in people's eyes, because I came from the streets where you don't look at people in the eye, because that's a challenge. And I looked down, and he's slamming dope in his arm. And man, I was maybe 8 years sober then, and I lost my cookies. I literally, and I'm not joking, I started to heave. And I ran into the bathroom at Rodeo Drive, into the bathroom stall, and I started vomiting over and over, like dry heaving. And it was like this total body reaction, because I literally hadn't seen that since I was strung out. And I was hysterically crying, and then I hear, Alana, is that you? And I'm like, bleh, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. And it was my sponsee, Tina. And she was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I said, no, I really need help right now. My sponsee. And she pulled me out of the bathroom, and she wiped my face, and she sat me back down in the seat. And really trippy things can happen in Alcoholics Anonymous, especially at Rodeo Drive, you know? And on July 23rd, 1988, I walked up into the North Shores Alana Club in Pacific Beach, San Diego. I was 235 pounds. I had a purple mohawk, and I was not a vision for you at all. I just got out of Sybil Brand, which is a women's penitentiary. I had 3 DUIs, and I had a cocaine arrest, and my life was completely a mess. And I still had that one little fraction of a millisecond of maybe I can just have one more. And that's the insidious disease that our brains tell us that one more is gonna work. You know, somebody said at their cake, you know, it's not, oh, it was Louis, the speaker, thank you so much for speaking. You know, it's not the first drink. You know what? I can take the first drink. I can take it, no problem. I put the first drink in my mouth, all good. But I have no power within myself whatsoever to not take the second. it's just forget it. Because I'm an alcoholic that they describe in the big book, a real alcoholic. I'm a real alcoholic. I'm glad I'm not a periodic alcoholic, because man, they are cunning, baffling, and powerful. Let me tell you. I've had a couple in my life. And just to kind of scratch the surface of my childhood, I was raised in Venice Beach and also Hollywood, and that's because my mom was a little bit nuts. But before that, when I was 1, I was put into a foster home in Reseda, and I was there from when I was 1 until I was 8 years old. And that's because my father at the time was a emotionally weak person, and that my mom was a very controlling freak. But the thing was, is she wanted to manage it. She was OCD and she was bipolar. So if she couldn't have me, it had to be her way. So I was put in this foster home. And in that foster home, I was beaten and I was molested on a daily basis from when I was 1 until I was 8 years old. And I say that very third party because it's a very long time ago and I've worked a lot through it. But when I say I was beaten and molested, the things that you can even visualize in your head, times it by 100. It was the most horrific experience that I think any child could ever live. And I'm an absolute walking, talking miracle. My therapist reminds me on a daily basis that, well, that's not true. I don't go to therapy every day. She reminds me back then on a weekly basis that it's a miracle that I'm even walking and talking and making sense, let alone sober. And when I got out of the foster home, when my mom was well, which meant when she was out of the mental institution, I lived with her in Sherman Oaks, and my mom was crazy beautiful, and she was a race car driver, and she was a model, and she was an actress, and it was the 60s and the 70s, and it was all about, Laurel Canyon and parties and big furry boots and beads, and, she got me out of the foster home when I was 4 for a weekend, and we went to Woodstock, and all I remember is being naked and doing this a lot. That's all I remember. I don't even know what that meant. But everybody was doing it, And so she was a race car driver, and she was the first woman to go into the men's division ever. And back in the 70s, there was no woman that ever went in the men's division. And then she won 60 out of 62 races. She was a badass. I always say she blew all the men away, literally. And yeah. And so when I came to her home, if you can imagine, it was worse. And my mom was diagnosed. My mom was not diagnosed. My mom was bipolar, but back in the day, they didn't know what that was. So she, in the mental institution, it was about shock therapy and all the crazy things that they didn't know what to do. And she was OCD. So I had to vacuum all the marks the same way, and I couldn't put a foot mark on it, but I could walk on the furniture to get out. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Let's walk on the, furry leather couch or whatever, but let's not make a footprint. Anyway, and my dad my dad owned a famous restaurant back in the day called Downey's in New York City, and it was the place to be, and it was a bar, and all the really famous people used to hang out there, and I remember really fractions of in and out, and most of my childhood is a blackout, and I believe that that's the universe protecting me from a lot of things that I don't need to remember. And my dad moved to a place called Yucca Valley. Yeah, exactly, Yucca Valley. And it's above Palm Springs, and it's a horrid place. And one afternoon, I did something wrong. I think I threw an apple in the garbage can in the bathroom, and I got really punished from my mother. And she always told me that my father was an asshole. And she's like, "You're going, your father's And I was like, oh my God, who is this ogre man? And he's like the devil. And I really believed it's horrid things. And I had a very, very, very active imagination because I had horrific things my whole life. So I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And so I ended up going to this man's house and having to live there. And I was 13 years old. And cutting to, my friend Lori had a party at her house, and her parents were out of town. And her father was a paramedic. And they had a bar, a wet bar. And he had this really magical red box in the closet. And we all knew about it, where all the pharmaceuticals were. And although I didn't know what that word meant. And so there was about 6 girls, and we made what we only knew how to make in a pitcher, was a screwdriver. Like, oh, orange juice and vodka, orange juice and vodka, you know? And it was like a quarter orange juice and 3/4, you know, vodka. And everybody took a sip, and they were like, oh, yeah, you know, and I'm like passing it along. And I was the 3rd girl, and there was like more than half left. And I just went, polished it off. 3rd girl was like, how freaking selfish am I? There's 3 more girls, you know what I mean? I was like, whoa. And I didn't have that look in my face of like, I was like, yeah. It was like fire going down in my soul. Just for that, I was like, yeah. And I didn't feel anything right away. And I did have that moment of, whoa, wow, that's heavy. And next thing I know, I'm in a blackout. Very first time I ever put alcohol to my lips, I went into a blackout. And I came to in Lori's father's shower. And this beautiful, drop-dead, gorgeous paramedic was slapping me in the face. Come on, honey, wake up. And I was like, you know, like vomit in my hair and, you know, like, yeah. And I came to and I was like, whoa. Who are you and how did I get here? You are fine, fine, fine. And I'm thinking, alcohol rules, you know what I mean? I'm gonna do this as much as I can and as often as I can. And I didn't think those, but I was like, wow, this is really freaking hardcore, you know? And that was it. First time I took alcohol to my lips, blackout. And let me tell you, the very last time I took alcohol to my lips, I was in a blackout. I was a very, very, very severe blackout drinker. And for me, it was like the beast, you know? It's like, my friend Ernie used to say, it's like, excuse me, it's like fucking a gorilla. It ain't over until the gorilla says it's over. You know what I mean? The beast has got you, and you are effed, and there's no stopping. And talking about alcoholism is a progressive disease, and there's a lot of newcomers in here, and oh my God, they all want to talk. Progressive, no, talk about this, do that. Wait, you forgot about this. I'm like, Jesus Christ, just slow down. It's a progressive disease, and what that means is it continues. So I'm 20 years sober. So if I decided tonight to take alcohol into my body, it's as if I had been drinking the entire 20 years. First time blackout, last time blackout, are you kidding me? Louis said it, jails, institution, or death. I'm gonna die. I'm absolutely gonna die if I put alcohol or drugs into my body, man. It's just, and I've had the experience of having, you know, surgeries in sobriety, and, you know, it's just never enough. The doctors are looking at me like, holy crap, how much Oxycontin can we give this woman? You know, like, are you joking? You know, you're like a 400-pound black guy, you know? And I'm like, yeah, so give me more, motherfucker, you know? And what's the problem? And it's like you want to push the button and it just doesn't do anything. And so, you know, when I was 19, I think I was about, I don't know, it was like 18, 19, 20 years old, and I was working at the Red Onion in Palm Desert. And I'd left, you know, woohoo, we're leaving Hollywood, we're leaving Venice, we're going to Palm Springs, because, you know, my dad was just like, forget it, you know, I couldn't live with him anymore. And I moved out when I was 13 years old. I'm sorry, 14. I moved out when I was 14 years old. And because I absolutely had enough of my insane family. And I said, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. And I left. And my mom was staying with my dad with her fiance. That's how twisted my family was. And I said, I'm out of here. And I proceeded to cuss a lot, and she said, good. And my dad was working, and she packed my bags and gave me my suitcase and gave me $100, and she said, good luck with your life. That was the family that I lived. And so I left, and I never went home again. And I'm coming home from the Red Onion. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning after my cocktail shift, and yes, I was underage. I'm sure you guys are pretty challenged, smart people. You can figure out why I worked there. Manager and I were pretty tight. And it was the 80s. And I got pulled over for my first DUI. And it was fun. It was hysterical. It was like a moment of just like, woohoo, what are you gonna do, you know? And he's tapping on the window with his billy club. And I'm like this, can I help you? Like trying to put my face into the window, like, hello, can we roll down the window, you bimbo, you know? And mind you, purple mohawk people, like it wasn't the 80s in thing. I was a bit different. And you know, when I get out of I stumble out of the car, and he has me do all these crazy sobriety field tests, and I'm like, what is this?
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
You know, what the hell do you want me to do, you know? And he says, you know, I want you to stick your foot up in the air and do, you know, like I do yoga today, thank you, but when you're drinking and it doesn't work and you're stumbling, right? And I quit school when I was in 7th grade, and I had a 5th grade reading level, and that's because drugs and alcohol were way more important than school. Like, why do I need school? I can sell drugs. You guys are morons. And, you know, and so he looks at me and he says, I want you to say the ABCs backwards. And I'm like this. Like the dog that hears that really high pitch, it's like, what? You're like, what? And I'm thinking, and I'm not saying anything, and I'm like, oh, compute alcoholic brain. A, B, C. And he is not laughing at all. He is pissed. He's like, and his partner's like, got a wet one here. Check her out. And I'm like, you know what I mean? The partner and I are getting along here. He understands, you know? And they put those handcuffs on pretty tight, and I went to Indio jail. And pretty funny, you know? And I didn't care. And I called my roommate and I said, I'm in jail. Aren't I freaking cool? I'm in jail. And I really thought that. I thought I was a cool person because I went to jail. Hi, have no life, have no self-esteem, have nothing. I have nothing inside. And progressive disease. Progressive. 6 months later, I'm coming back from a rockin' New Year's Eve party in Yucca Valley. Is this mine, or has this been here for like 8 hours? Okay. And I'm on Highway 10, and I'm going fast, and I'm in a blackout. That was funny. It was either, oh, wow, or he's yawning really hard. So I'm in a blackout, and I come to, and I feel my hair being pulled, and my face back of the cop car. Boom, my face. Boom. Over and over and over. It's funny, huh? That's really funny. And it is now, but it's not funny when your face is getting beaten on a car. And I blacked out. I came to for a second, and I blacked out. And all of a sudden, I have a billy club, boom, at my head, over and over. And this woman police officer is beating the shit out of me with the billy club. And it's not like I can go, whoa, hold on, man, I just got here. Like, I just woke up. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are you doing to me? You know, can we talk for a moment? Holy shit, this is really intense. You know what I mean? No, like, she's pissed. And she's got those handcuffs on really freaking tight, and they toss me, they throw me in the back of that cop car. And they go down Highway 10, and they get off on the Indio, whatever exit that says, you know, Indio jail, place to go. And they come to the stop sign and slam on the brakes, and my head hits the ground. I'm bleeding from every orifice. They do not like me. And for moments of clarity, no clarity. For moments, I'm like, what happened? Blackout. Oh my God, this hurts. Blackout. What's going on with me? Blackout. Blackout. I come to the next day, and I'm in this little teeny padded cell, and my face hurts. bad, and my eye is out to here. And they pull me out and they say, Miss Downey, go get your bags, and I check out, and they give you, they inventory your stuff that you brought in, and he starts throwing the stuff back, and then he comes across this little Chinese cocaine kit, little Chinese, you open it up in this little vial and the gold straw, and he looks at me, and there's nothing in it, but he looks at me and he goes, you make me sick. And he throws it back in my purse, and he goes, I don't ever want to see you again. You're pathetic. Get out of here. And I went home. And I don't drink out of cocktail glasses. I think I have a tumbler from 7-Eleven. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have fancy forks and knives, and I don't have anything. I live at restaurants and bars. And my favorite drink is Jack Daniels. And I ripped off that cap and I poured it down my throat as fast as I could, and it hurt. And I looked in my purse, and there was this piece of paper that explained the reason why I was arrested. And the night before, I had tequila. Tequila and Alana do not mix at all. I'm a violent human being on tequila. And I bit the woman police officer in the neck. Yeah. She did not like, and hard. Big time hard. And I started to beat the living crap out of her probably as much as I could, and I probably got a swing in there, you know what I mean? Boom! That's it. I'm like on the ground. And progressive wasn't so funny. ABCs, now I'm in a blackout, now I have my face pulverized, and it's not a fun experience. But I only know what I know, and I know that I need to numb everything around me, especially what's in me. I got to make it go away. I can't feel 1 ounce of pain, not one feeling, like Lewis said. It just won't exist inside my being. My whole life was torture, and I was done. And you think I was done at that point? Absolutely not. I got a cocaine arrest 6 months later. I went to jail again. And by the time I was 22 years old, I had my 3rd DUI. And I love my mom very dearly. And there's nothing more than a child wants is the love and attention from their parents. And I didn't ever get it. I had no discipline. I had only discipline, and it was the gnarliest form of discipline. It was being beaten. I didn't have a graceful, loving discipline of, no, let's have a timeout. You're a bad girl for saying fuck. Do you know what I mean? It was like beyond that. And my mom married a younger man, and I was 17, and he was 18, and I was dating a 31-year-old. I mean, it's just like, very reverse roles. We had problems. And his name was Kyle. And Kyle was a preppy. And at this time, it was all about Black Flag and TSOL and Sex Pistols, and I was like, I just got back from the Dead Kennedy concert, and John peed on me. I mean, it was like, we're living. And I come home, and Kyle's got a pink alligator shirt on with the collar rolled up and his topsider shoes. I went sailing today. Oh my God, you were pathetic, like complete polar opposites. And we got in an altercation, and it wasn't pretty, and I left. And the very last thing that I said to them is, I'm never gonna be who you want me to be, I gotta go. I tried one more time to live with my mom because I loved her. And on March 23rd, 1988, I got a phone call, and it was 6 a.m., and I was just about to pass out. And it was the Sun Valley, Idaho Sheriff Department. And my heart was racing, because God knows, when a policeman drives behind you, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like that ultimate, just horrible fear, And now it's the Sun Valley, Idaho Sheriff Department. Like, how the hell, why are you calling me, was I in Idaho in a blackout? And this is bad. And he said, do you know a Marshall and a Kyle? And I said, yeah. And my heart dropped, and I said, yeah, it's my parents. And he said, I'm sorry to inform you, but they've been killed. And I threw the phone across the room, and I don't even know how or what, I just heard those words. And I went into an absolute alcoholic tantrum, and I shoved everything off the shelves, and I broke glasses, and I punched my hand through the window, and I get back on the phone. It's kind of funny because he's still there, It's like, wow. And I asked what had happened, and he said that They bought a gun in LA and they went to Idaho and bye Mark. And they went to Idaho and they checked themselves into a hotel, and then he shot her twice in the head, and then he shot himself. And that's when I was done. That's when I made a conscious decision to never love a human being as long as I lived. I made a decision to never love a human being as long as I live. Do you know how absolutely intense that is? That's pretty gnarly. And it was like turning off and turning on a light switch. I'm done. I'm done. And I proceeded to go into the deepest, darkest depths of alcoholism that you can ever imagine. There are stories that I only share with my deepest, closest friends and my sponsor. And it was probably what most of you have done. And it's horrible. And why do we do it? Because we have this insidious disease that tells us that we don't have a disease and it's going to be different next time. And it's a lie. It's a lie. And on July 23rd, I got my third DUI. Thank you, San Diego Sheriff. Thank you. And I went to jail and I was pending 3 to 5 in the penitentiary. And now I might look like a tough ass on the outside, you know? I got the purple mohawk, I got the big armor, you know? I was a big, big girl. And it was because I wanted you away from me. I didn't want to be attractive to women. I put the pound, or to men, Freudian slip. I didn't want to be attracted to men. Wow, I didn't want men to be attracted to me or vice versa, and so the weight kept coming on. I didn't want you to be close. I didn't look in the eye. I didn't care about anything. If you had what I needed, which was drugs or vice versa, it's on. Beyond that, I carried a sawed-off shotgun and a revolver pistol, and that was who I was. And if you looked at me wrong, I wouldn't hesitate to clock you in the head and walk over you. You got a problem? And it was a horrible, horrible existence. And I got busted, and through a series of events, when I was a cocktail waitress, this guy, Gary Donovan, was one of my customers, and he used to come in for happy hour, and he used to get a Greyhound and some blow every Wednesday. And then one day, Gary disappeared for like 6 months. And then 6 months later, Gary comes walking into my bar. I'm like, wow, Gary. And he's like sauntering up, and he's got this high-pro glow going, and I was like, ooh, dude, you look like you need a drink. Gave him his Greyhound. He goes, oh, no, I don't drink. And I was like, huh? I'm like, oh, well, here, have some smack. No, I don't do drugs. And I'm like, I wanted to say, well, will you do me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, well, I don't understand. And he goes, I'm clean and sober in a program called Cocaine Anonymous. And he said it that loud. And I was like, shh. Like, oh my God, they might hear you. And I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, you're what? And he goes, I'm clean and sober. And I go, well, what the hell does that mean? I didn't even know what it meant. And he goes, I haven't had a drink or a drug in 6 months, and my life is amazing. I'm like, good for you. Right on. Peace. And he said, I just wanted you to know my life is absolutely amazing, and I love my life. I'm clean and sober in a program called Cocaine Anonymous. And I said, great, have a nice day. And he left. Perfect 12-step call for a girl like me. He didn't tell me I had a problem. He didn't point the finger. He didn't accuse me of anything. He just told me about his experience. It's called planting the seed. And I was in jail on July 22nd, and maybe you have had this experience, and it's another horrid experience where I'm sitting in jail and I get that one phone call, and most people are like, yes, I get a phone call. I was like, this is really pathetic. I have not one person to call. I have no relationships with my mom and stepdad are dead. I don't know my father. I have no friends. My friends I was a dealer, so they were like Insta friends. You know, when you were out, they were gone. Those were my friends. And so I called Gary. 10 years hadn't talked to this man. 411, Gary Donovan, Palm Desert. Thank God he was listed. Thank God that man answered the phone. And he told me that, I'm sorry this is going, I laid it on him. I'm in jail. Parents committed suicide and murder, and this is horrible, and I'm pending 3 to 5. It's a lot to put on somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know? That's like now 10 years sober, you know? And he said, Alana, don't drink until tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'm incarcerated. That's not going to be a problem. And he said, He said, go to a program called Alcoholics Anonymous, and I promise you your life will get better. And I've been sober for 20 years and 3 months. It's a long time for a broken human being like me. And I didn't know that I had as much courage as I really have until I got here. I mean, it's easy to point a gun at somebody and threaten their life. What's really hard is to stay here and save your own. It's really hard to sit in your seat and really, really earn that seat and strip away everything that's not you to finally get to who you are. I was given a dictionary in one hand and a big book in the other because I didn't know how to read when I got here, and I was ashamed. And I found a man, his name was Gino Chavarria. He had long, dark hair, and he was this Mexican that looked like a badass, and he had the sunlight of the Spirit in his eyes. I didn't know what that meant, sunlight of the Spirit, woo, you know, hippie shit. But he had something in his eyes, and when I glanced, it was like it caught my attention for a second. I asked him to be my sponsor, and he's like, you know, I don't have a whole lot of time to get into it, but he was like, you know, Alana, I promise your life is going to get better. It's going to get better. And look up these words in the dictionary. Go to meetings every day and your life will change. And, you know, my life has been the most miraculous, wonderful experience ever in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I lost all the weight. I went to therapy. I'd worked the steps. I'm a published poet. I'm a writer. I'm in the music business. I own my own company. I got a cool car. I was on tour, and if you're on your 9-step, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Let me tell you, you don't have to look for your 9-step. It'll hit you in the face, you know? And I did my 9-step, and I was in Texas, and I was ending a gig, and I found my first love, Sean, and I lived with him from when I was 15 until I was 22, and I owed him amends, and I found him, and we had a weekend, and I made my amends, and I came home, and I was pregnant. Best amends I ever made. It's true. Because out of that amends I had a love child. And unfortunately, that man couldn't stick around because he doesn't have enough integrity or self-esteem to be a part of my life. And that's his path. But I have enough integrity and self-esteem and the love of prayers of you guys to take what I don't know, being tortured my whole life, take what I do know, the experience that Alcoholics Anonymous and steps have given me, and I get to have true love in my life. So that liability of I will never love a human being as long as I live turned into an asset, and I have a beautiful baby boy named Shay who's 7 years old, and he's the light of my life. He broke my heart open, and I get to show him exactly how I wasn't raised. I get to give him what you guys gave me. And I have 1 minute, and Einstein says many things. One of them is, you know, you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that developed it. So if you're sitting in a problem, you're never going to solve it. But there's always a solution to a problem. And if you get out of the problem, you'll get out of that consciousness, and you'll solve the problem. And any fool can walk around and make big, huge things and complex and have a violent life, but it takes an absolute genius to turn around and go the opposite direction of that and change everything. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, a life of my wildest dreams. If you're new to this program, hold the guys and girls' hand next to you, not too tight because they might go away, just like a loose garment. I buried most of my friends in Alcoholics Anonymous. I turned 18, 7 of my friends got loaded. 7 of them that were 18 years sober. God bless them. I will stay, I will walk over the bodies, I will do every inventory, I will do steps. Alcoholics Anonymous is first. Before my son, before you. Thanks for my life.
I I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.